So before Sukkot, we take an Esrog, which is going to be part of a four fruit that we take, four plants actually that we take. We have the citrus fruit, it's called an Esrog, and it's pre-Eitz Hadar. We have the palms of a date tree, Tapes Tvar. We have the myrtles, and we have the willows. So the citrus fruit is the fruit which has a good smell and it has a taste. And it represents Jews who do Torah and mitzvahs. Meticulous about it. So there's a few things we want to make sure about an esrog. Number one, that it is an esrog, it is a citrus fruit, not some other type of fruit that's similar to it. Now, this is a citrus fruit. We also have something called a lemon. A lemon is not quite similar to a citrus fruit, and obviously you can tell right away the difference, besides the fact that most lemons are smaller. However, what if you took a tree, a citrus tree, and you grafted a lemon onto it? Then some of the features of the esrog would translate into the lemon. Or vice versa, if you took a lemon tree, or some other type of tree which is not an esrog tree, and you would grafted a branch of an esrog into it. So this is one of the things we want to be careful. Now they give you certain signs. The first one to mention, discuss it, and say, okay, so how can I tell on a fruit whether it's a citrus or not? So it says, well, if it's smooth like a lemon, then it's not a citrus. It's a tree that was grafted from a lemon. If it, you can see the ukitz, which is the part of the way the esrog grows. This is the part that's connected to the tree. The ukitz is the part that's connected to the tree, and this is usually facing down because it's a heavy fruit. But this is called the head of the fruit because it's really the top. This is the flower from which the fruit grows. So when it's a small flower, it grows from this pitum. Then as it becomes bigger and bigger, it grows downward. Even though obviously this is the part that connects it. Now, we can see the ukitz over here sticks out from the lemon. Here, this is the ukitz, this is where it's attached, it's sticking out. This is shakua, this goes in. There's one other thing which you can tell when you slice the fruit open. A lemon is mostly juice. It has a small shell which protects the fruit. Where a citrus, most of it is solid, and there's little juice inside. So these are the three differences between. However, nowadays, now this used to be in the olden days. People used to go down. Most of the esrogim that they used to use in Europe grew in Italy, in the state of Calabria, and they're known as Yanaver esrogim because the farmers in Calabria, they didn't travel all the way to Europe, to all these shtetl, all these little cities and towns. They used to travel to the city of Yanav, and over there they used to bring all their produce, and the businessmen who used to supply the esrogim for the Jewish people, they used to travel to Yanav and they used to buy the esrogim there. So that's where they exchanged. Now, after World War II, one time, somebody actually went down to Calabria to check on the esrogim, and in Calabria, traditionally, they didn't used to graft the trees. Grafting trees started more as a hobby. People who liked nice esrogim, and they figured that it would be nicer if you actually mixed different types of fruit. But one time, somebody went down to Calabria, and he saw Calabria, which was famous for its grafted esrogim, and all of a sudden they started grafting over there. So they started going down to Calabria and check on the trees. Now, a grafted tree, you can tell right away on the tree. Obviously, there's a particular sign on the tree you can tell right away, and those who go there every year, they know what to look for. And so this is the first thing you want to make sure, that it's an esrog, it's not from the grafted tree, and so on and so forth. Then, up to I would say 45 years ago, there was Rabbi Jacobson. He was one of the first people to go down from America. He came down to America 70, 80 years ago. And he used to supply those who were very meticulous about taking esrogim only from Italy, the reason they would take it from Italy is because when Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, that on the first day of Sukkot we have to take an esrog, and there were no esrogim growing in the desert. So Moshe Rabbeinu sent messengers all the way to Italy and Calabria to take esrogim from there. So therefore, that's one of the reasons. In addition to the fact that people, most of the Jews then lived in Europe, so obviously Europeans took what the local produce. But in addition to that, the Chabad Hasidim actually have a tradition handed down all the way till the Alter Rebbe that Moshe Rabbeinu had taken from this. It's an additional reason why we're meticulous about taking from Calabria. So it used to be that, especially here in Crown Heights, which is one of the big centers of selling esrogim, and Rabbi Jacobson used to go down there. He would bring down maybe 15 nice, he would bring a lot of esrogim, I don't know, 100, 200, as many as were needed, but only 15 of them would be totally clean without any blemish. We'll soon see, this is obviously from the cleaner esrogim. We'll soon see an example of an esrog that has a lot of esrogim that have what's called a blot fleck. Now a blot fleck means that a leaf touched it. And people would rather pay more money for the esrog just to make sure that it doesn't happen. Let's see what a blot fleck looks like. Here, you have to be...
Right there.
This is this is already more than just a blot fleck. This is some type of, it's a real serious touching over here from different leaves and stuff. So while it's still kosher, but people would rather pay a little more money and get totally clean esrogim. So starting 42 years ago, my father started going with Mr. Leiter, and he paid a little bit more for the guy who's physically cutting the esrogim, obviously supervised. And he would look at an esrog, check on the esrogim before he took them down off the tree, and if he would see all these blot flecks and he would leaves that are touching them, he would just leave them on the tree. So since then, almost all the people who supply esrogim, they're very meticulous about making sure that there's more of the esrogim that are totally clean, as much as possible. Now, there are regular smooth esrogim, and then there are extraordinary esrogim. Many esrogim have these bumps. This is one of the things that separate them from a lemon, where a lemon is smooth, and these have bumps and curves. A lot of people like these lumps.
Try to hold it in front of your kapata, maybe the black. Okay.
So a lot of people like these bumps and curves, and the bumpier and the curvier it is, it's more of a reason to buy it and maybe pay a little more for it. Now, the Rebbe Rashab, 5th Chabad Rebbe, he had a special liking to a special type of an esrog. We all know when Adam and Rishon ate from the Eitz Hadas, Adam and Chava, they ate from the Eitz Hadas, there's a few opinions what tree it was. And one of the opinions is that it was an esrog. So there are certain esrogim in which you can tell there's a little bite. where somebody bit from it. Some esrogim, they just grow that way with such a shape. And the Rebbe, it's called a bis, Chava's bis. Chava gave a bite over there. And the Rebbe Rashab liked it, so he wrote a letter to some people who were going to send him esrogim. In addition to the Italian esrogim, also a little from Eretz Yisrael. He said, if you can send me with a bis, I would really appreciate it. So this is some of the, they're not that common, but some people really like these.
Did the Rebbe have one like this?
I don't know. I really don't know. But what we already observed is that there are two types of esrogim. We see this esrog doesn't have a pitum on top. Remember we said that everything grows from the pitum. It's like a wooden stick that where the flower starts opening up. So there's a little wooden stick, and from there the esrog grows. Now what happens is almost every esrog grows with a pitum, but some of them the pitum falls off while it's still on the tree. So now, if it has a pitum. Now the Mishnah tells us if the pitum is removed, then it's no good. You can't use it for. However, it depends. Many Rishonim say that if the pitum fell off while it was still on the tree, many Rishonim say that if the pitum fell off while it was still on the tree, then it is okay. However, what happens is when somebody goes down, he can definitely tell you one of the reasons that we are very particular about buying from those who actually went down to Calabria. Because sometimes you go in the street and you'll see somebody telling you he's selling a Calabria esrog. But the question is, number one, do you know that it's really from a non-grafted tree? I mean, was he actually there? Number two, do you trust him that he actually paid for the esrog? Because one of the requirements of an esrog is that it has to be lochem, it has to be yours. If you stole it, then it's no good. If you borrowed it, it's also not good. It has to be yours. So, when you're paying good money for it, you want to know, well, did whoever's supplying you with the esrog, did he pay for it? Or maybe he just borrowed money and he didn't really pay for it. So that creates a whole question whether it was really yours. Number three, it is that if there's not a pitum over there, it came off the tree without the pitum. Because if it came off the tree with a pitum and it's just missing it, then it's definitely not good. However, if it does have a pitum, it's definitely better. Now there are different types of shapes in esrogim. We have esrogim. Many esrogim are shaped like a tower. Something like this. It is narrow on top, and it comes all the way down on the bottom. It's long. It's called a migdal. However, the Rebbe liked a gidl which is round on top. It's known as the Chabad gidl or the Rebbe's gidl. Here we can tell there's an esrog with a pitum, nice wooden pitum, and it's round on top. And there aren't that many of these around, but those that are available, people would pay a lot of money to get exactly such, because this is the way the Rebbe liked them. And the Rebbe many times would use my father's esrogim. And when the Rebbe used an esrog, he made sure to pay for it before Yom Tov. Now the Rebbe would traditionally order about 40 or 50 esrogim. He would distribute many of them, but there was one always that he would select for himself to use to make the bracha on every single day of Sukkot, and then somebody, Rameir Harlot, would stand with the esrog and let everybody make the bracha on the Esrog. The last year that the Rebbe came out for downstairs in 770 Tafshin and Beis, he actually, after making the bracha, he stayed himself giving the Esrog to everybody who would come by, and many people started coming by, and it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the last person came and made the bracha on the Esrog, and then the Rebbe went and daven Shachris. Where usually the Rebbe would daven Shachris 10 o'clock on Yom Tov. So, Rabbi Jacobson had the chazak of giving, selling the Esrogim to the Rebbe, and then his son-in-law, grandchild, Rabbi Oldtime, they took over, they're in charge of it. And usually the Rebbe used to pay them after Sukkot for all these Esrogim. However, the one Esrog that he would decide that on this Esrog, this is the Esrog he's going to make the bracha on, he would make sure to pay for it before Sukkot. Before we go, we'll show you a picture of one extraordinary Esrog. There aren't many like it. Very nice shape of an Esrog. Those who want to order Esrogim can contact myself at Keller Esrogim at 347-556-6372. Freilich and Sukkos, we should be zeicha to that we should see the Rebbe, and we should be able to make the bracha on the Rebbe's Esrog, and we should dance in Yerushalayim Ira Kodesh, where you take the simcha of the mitzvah of taking the Arba Minim is not only on the first day of Sukkot, but it's Minat Torah on all 7 days of Sukkot, and then you can do it even on Shabbos.
Right. And what's so beautiful about this Esrog?
This Esrog, you can see it has curves. It has. We're going to show one more Esrog. This is one more thing that people like about an Esrog. There are certain Esrog they have like a gartel. It's a girdle around the Esrog. And you know also Esrog is Rosh Tevis out for any regel gava. Here we have this Esrog. You can see there's like a gartel, a small girdle, not a full gartel, but almost. And some people like an Esrog like this. Again,
why do people like the gartel?
I guess because Adam Rishon had a gartel. They say Vayelech Moshe. How do you know that you have to walk around with a yarmulke? Because it says Vayelech Moshe. Moshe walked when he walked without a yarmulke. A gartel is something that it says in the Gemara that you have to wear for davening, and they used to wear it for benching also. So Esrog with a gartel Esrog is also against the heart. So the gartel, a yid puts the gartel against the heart to separate the heart from the rest of the body. So since the Esrog is against the heart, so if it has a gartel, it's really nice and beautiful.
Very nice. Okay, so let me ask you a couple questions.
Yeah,
What are the when I'm looking for an Esrog? What are the steps that I'm looking for?
The steps are like this. The first thing you have to make sure is that it's not grafted. So you need a reliable person that either you know that he himself went there to Calabria, or you know that, for instance, Rabbi Oldtime, he himself doesn't go to Calabria. There's two shluchim in Italy, Rabbi Moshe Lazar and Shmuel Rodel, they cut for him the Esrogim. Or there's other Esrog Seichim that you know who went to Italy and so on and so forth. But if you're just buying off the street, then you don't know who, and you don't know if this guy went, or if the guy went, does he even know the difference, or anybody can sell him anything. So the next thing, obviously, is you want to make sure it's a reliable person, a person who wouldn't take an Esrog that he didn't pay for, or any other item that he's selling you, a lulav or hadassim that he didn't pay for. Some people just buy on credit, and then you never know. You don't want it depending on whether or not they pay up their suppliers. But the next thing is to make sure that the esrog has a piton. Now, some people, they don't want an esrog with a piton because you're afraid. What if the piton falls off? What if it fell on the floor? Or what if, especially when you have little kids, some are afraid of the little kids. But again, the next hider that is important is make sure. Now, the next thing after making sure that it has a piton, or if you're not careful about the piton, you don't want a piton, the esrog has to have a nice shape. Some esrogim, they're okay, they're clean, but they don't really have a nice shape. Some look like a banana, some look like something else. So you want an esrog that looks like an esrog. And some people are very makbid on these curves and bumps. This is really what separates an esrog from a lemon. And the last thing is what's called here. The last thing is it should be clean. It shouldn't have what's called a blot fleck either. Now a blot fleck is not a problem. A blot fleck, it's kosher. But obviously the more you have, and even if you have it, the higher up you have it, it's obviously worth less, but it's still kosher. So these are basically the steps that things that you obviously cannot have worms from the inside. Here and there you'll find such esrogim that are really, you can tell, certain types of bumps, like bubbles. These are very questionably. If you have one bump, it's okay, but if you have two bumps, then it's not okay. This is already a question of kashrus. So cleanliness is not. Now, some people look out for black dots, but most black dots are merely dust. But obviously, if it doesn't even have a black dot, then it's even nicer. Now, some people actually like very big esrogim. We all know the story. Rabbi Kiva once came to shul with an esrog the size of a watermelon. What happens is an esrog, it grows, it starts growing about 2 bishvat. And then it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And when they take it off the trees, which is mostly tammuz and of, it is usually the sizes that we showed you now. But there are certain esrogim that are even bigger, this size. And if you actually cut right before Sukkot, you could probably find this esrog the size of a watermelon. Not the big watermelon, maybe a small one. But yeah, there are big esrogim. Some years we have bigger esrogim. But here we can see a blot fleck right on the top. So while this one is a big esrog, it's not totally clean. It's very hard to find big esrogim that are clean, but we'll soon show you a big esrog that's clean, and it's a little of the round shape, what we call the Rebbe's Gidl.
Is there any hitter in color? We should be looking out for more green or yellow.
By the time Sukkot comes around, you want it to be yellow. Now, when it comes off the tree, if it's yellow when it comes off the tree, it's no good. When it comes off the tree, it should be green. But by the time Sukkot comes around, it turns yellow already. Usually it turns naturally. Some people put apples and all kinds of artificial things to make it yellow, but it's not really necessary. If you cut it off, let's say, if you cut off the esrog 2 months before Sukkot, it should turn naturally yellow by the time Sukkot comes around.
The Rebbe was careful to buy an esrog with a pitum?
Yeah, the Rebbe would usually buy an esrog with a pitum. One time the pitum fell off a little of Yom Tov, so the Rebbe switched to an esrog, I guess, without a pitum. And we're going to show an esrog. Might not be as big as the other one, but it's from the bigger sizes for esrogim, from the esrogim that don't fit into a box. And you can see it's still green. Hopefully it'll turn yellow by the time Sukkot comes around. It's a little roundish on top. It's similar to the Rebbe's Gidl. And it's...
And it has a gartel also.
Yeah, it has a gartel also. Not all the way around, but shtickle gartel.
If it's still green during Sukkot, does that make it possible?
No. It depends obviously how green. If it's greener than this, then it's possible on Sukkot. But if it's this, you can see it started becoming yellow a little, so it's not possible on Sukkot.
Is there any minimum size that the esrog has to be?
Yeah, the esrog, usually, if you can't put your hand around it, if you can put, you have to be able to put, it has to fit. In other words, your thumb, from your thumb to the next finger, it can't. if you can put it together, then it's almost too small, and that's the size already to be careful on. But if there's space a little, then you know that it's big enough. So most people don't want to get to the borderline. They want to make sure it's a little bigger than that size.
So the only way to know if the esrog is not morkav is with a hechsher, or you can tell through the signs that are mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch?
Now, the signs that are mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch, the language of the Alter Rebbe is, one can differentiate between an esrog that's grafted from a lemon to another esrog, to a regular esrog. Now, some people say that this esrog that's grafted from a lemon, we're not talking about an esrog, that the fruit is the esrog. In other words, it depends what you grafted onto what. Let's say there's a tree, a lemon tree, and you put a branch of an esrog on it, you grafted the esrog onto the lemon tree, so then the fruit is going to be an esrog. But if you grafted a lemon onto the esrog, then the fruit is going to be a lemon. There's a major discussion over here about the Alter Rebbe. What is he referring to? Is he referring to a lemon that's grafted? Now, obviously, the difference between a lemon and an esrog is more discernible. You can tell much better the difference between a lemon and an esrog. But if the lemon is grafted from the esrog, so some of the traits of the esrog go into the lemon, and vice versa. So, but the real way to tell, there's also questions what the problem is. Is the problem that it's not an esrog, or the problem is that you did an aveira in it because you're not allowed to graft? So, if the issue is that you're not allowed to graft, so it doesn't make a difference if you graft it onto a lemon or to a chushkash tree. It doesn't really make a difference. So the only way to tell that there's absolutely no grafting is when a reliable guy who went down there gives the hechsher. Usually it's two people that go down there, and they supervise during the cutting that they only cut from trees that are not morkav, that are not grafted. It's the only reliable way to. For the past my father has been going there for the past starting 40 years ago. And I went along with my father 2 years, and he showed me how to tell whether esrog is grafted or not. And then my brother continued going there, and he still does. And for the past 6-7 years, I've been going there myself and with somebody else. This year I went with Yael Edelman from France, and we went together and supervised the Esrogim. And we also picked nice ones and clean ones, plenty of clean ones. So they can be reached at the 347-556-6372. We should have a Freiliche Yom Tov. We should have the revelation of Melech HaMashiach. We'll be in the Beis HaMikdash, and we'll dance with the Esrogim and the Lulavim and the Aravis all 7 days.